Right. My name is Susan Johnson, and for those of you who don't know who I am a nutritional therapy practitioner. I'm also founder of the Kick Cancer Movement, and I'm a presidential diamond with doTERRA essential oils. And I love using this space to educate and empower you guys to live your healthiest life. So thank you for joining me each week. Some of you come back each week, and I hope that that is because you are able to walk away from every live that we do feeling a little bit more educated and empowered. So before we go any further, I feel like Facebook, we're having some issues. So will somebody let me know if you're able to see? I keep getting little messages over on Facebook. So I'm gonna keep going here on Instagram. Worst case scenario, I will upload the video from Instagram onto Facebook, okay? So again, thank you guys for your grace and your patience. Today we're going to talk about something that I realize I take for granted. Thank you, Alexia. I appreciate your feedback. Thanks so much. So I take for granted the fact that my kids eat healthy. And they didn't really ever have a choice. From day one, being a nutritional therapy practitioner, I knew how to feed them well. I knew the nutrients that their body needed. And so from a really young age, my kids always ate healthy. So they were pretty jaded. And I recognize that I do take that for granted. So it looks like we lost Facebook. I'm gonna go ahead and finish here and then we'll upload it later. So I take that for granted, and I realize that that's something that doesn't come easy to most kids. And what made me understand this was that I shared on Instagram here with you guys. I asked, hey, will you tell me what recipes do you want a healthier version of? What are some of the recipes that you love or in your family you guys enjoy, but you want a healthier version? And you guys, what topped the list was mac and cheese. So it made me realize you're speaking for your kids, a lot of you, and maybe some of you are speaking for yourselves. I mean, who can pass up a good serving of truffle mac and cheese? If you don't know already, I'm obsessed with anything truffle, not the chocolate, but the mushroom. And it's so hard for me to pass up anything with truffle in it. So a few of you are maybe adults asking that. But it just made me realize that there is a need out there that you guys just need somebody to lock arms with to help your kids eat healthier. So before we get into the 3 ways that I'm going to share with you, will you share this? I know that there's going to be people out there that this is going to help, that this is going to serve, and it's not just you having a hard time with your kids eating. So thank you. 3 things. Number 1, I want you to know that it can be so simple. And I also want you to know that bribery is okay. I am all about bribery. Some of you may disagree, and that's okay. We can all have our opinions. But even to this day, now that my kids are getting older, they've experienced other foods, they get treats, it's getting a little bit harder to help them make good choices. So number 1 is bribery. Now what I mean by this, as we get into cold and flu season, one of the most staple things that you should be having your kids and you enjoy every single day is bone broth, homemade, nutrient-dense broth. That's not gonna be easy, right? It doesn't have to be a lot. You can keep it simple. So what I do is I will make them occasionally, but I know most of you are not gonna make homemade gummies every single day just to have on hand to bribe your children with. So instead, if you run to Costco, most people have a Costco or Trader Joe's, and you get their organic gummy bears and you have them in your pantry at a level they cannot reach. And every time they take a few sips of their broth, or you determine how much, some kids, this is gonna be a brand new concept and they're not gonna wanna do a lot of it, and that's okay. You take a few sips if they take a few sips or they enjoy a 6 to 8 ounce cup of broth, you're gonna give them a couple gummy bears. That's bribery. But if that becomes a habit and you see that they continue to enjoy it more and more, they will do it without bribery, and you get to move on to the next thing. Because you can say, you know how, when you didn't like broth and I encouraged you to drink it and I gave you those treats to do it, now you're drinking it and you know how good it is for you. So let's try it with broccoli or whatever it is that they refuse to eat. Okay, so I am not above bribery. That's number 1. Number 2 is so simple, counting fingers. This works well for younger kids. What's funny is I was visiting one of my best friends, and she lives in the Midwest, and we were sitting at the table, and her youngest was having a hard time finishing her dinner. And so I just sat there and I said, okay, will you eat 6 more bites for Auntie Susan? And she looked at me and I said, let's do this. And I held up my fingers and I said, okay, ready? Every time you take a bite, I'm gonna drop a finger. And then when we get to 0, you're all done. And she loved it. It was a game. It was a total game, so she was willing to participate. So we'd hold it up, she'd take 1 bite, I'd drop a finger. She'd take 2 bites, I'd drop another finger. And I think what this comes down to, you guys, is the overall theme of getting your kids to eat healthier is to be patient. It may take multiple meals of you sitting at the table for an hour or more. And I'm sure some of you have already been there. You've already done that, right? You've already put in that work, and it's frustrating and it's exhausting. If you are willing to invest the time and the patience with your children, you will see a shift, but it's on you. You're the parent. You can say no. You can make those decisions, and it's on you to have that patience and that wherewithal to keep going when they're fighting you on it. So games like that are simple, but it does take time. The third thing that I would say is involving them. And I hope you guys are going like, gosh, these are simple. These are really simple. There's nothing like a brand new concept here, but it's a good reminder, right? You can involve your kids in what they're eating. So next time you go to the grocery store, take them with you and say, okay, this week, I want you to pick out the vegetable. And you stand in the produce aisle, and it might take a while. Again, patience is really required in this. You let them pick out the vegetable. Not only that, but when you get home, you let them help you cook it. If they like cheese and they're not intolerant to it, let them put cheese on their vegetable. If that is what it takes to get them to start eating more vegetables, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. Let them be involved. They're gonna feel their power back. You're gonna feel so much better because you know they're getting nutrients in their body, and they're gonna enjoy the process. They're getting to spend time with you, and you're giving them choices. I think that's really important. So involve them, whether it's picking out their meal, their lunch. One thing we always do is we always offer our kids 2 choices, not for dinner. Dinner is, hi, Allie. Dinner is like, this is dinner. You don't get a choice. What I put in front of you, you eat. And we've always been that way. I do not give my kids choices at dinner. But for breakfast and lunch, I always give them 2 choices. I say, okay, here's what we can have today. Sometimes 3, depending on what we have in our fridge. You get to choose from one of these choices. And by doing that, again, that's involving them in the decision-making process, and then they feel a part of that decision. So when they choose yogurt and granola, that was their choice. They're most likely gonna eat it. You didn't force it on them, right? And again, we force dinner on them. I make food, they eat it, or they starve. That's kind of, I know it sounds harsh. To this day, I don't think my kids have ever gone to bed hungry. I think after, even though maybe has taken an hour, they finished a meal because they know that I'm not playing games. So again, if we sum up 3 ways to get your kids to eat healthy, we're talking about bribery with healthy treats. We're talking about counting fingers, so playing games at the dinner table that are involved in helping them take bites, counting fingers being that game in specific. And 3, involving them in the process, letting them have a role to play while they're learning to eat healthier. And another thing is, this is kind of a bonus topic, is find replacements. That's why I asked that question on Instagram, and why I shared with you, if you click on the link in my profile, actually, if you look at our post from yesterday, I think it was, you'll find the blog post that I did on vegan mac and cheese. So if you just go to seasonjohnson.com, you go to blog and you find the recipes section, you'll find the blog post that I shared about a healthy version of mac and cheese. So find replacements, be willing to investigate, do the work. For example, if your kids are obsessed with Doritos, which are super unhealthy, there are chips out there that are sold that are organic, that don't have coloring agents, that don't have natural flavoring agents that you can find that taste like Doritos. We love the Siete nacho cheese chips. Those kind of mimic Doritos. There are replacements. So take the time, investigate, play around, and try to grab some different options. Tammy, yes, I upload all of my videos to YouTube. So my YouTube channel, I will link it in my stories after this, but my YouTube channel is pretty simple to find at Season Johnson, and I always put my videos there because I know not a lot of people are on social media and they still would like this information. So it's a great question. Thanks for being on, Tammy.